The first thing to do is our call of order and roll call. We have 7 board members present. We are going to make an adjustment to the agenda. We're going to move the human and physical resources items above the teaching and learning. So just a small adjustment there. That's for the auditor who's coming tonight to let them get back on the road quicker. And I also want to take a second. This is Dr. Jen Thomas's last meeting with us. So on behalf of the school board, I would like to thank Jen Thomas for her 4 years of service on the Board of Education. While this may be her last board meeting, it's definitely not going to be the last time she impacts our students. So thank you. Our next item is 2A, adoption of the agenda.
I would move for approval of the agenda as presented with the revisions you mentioned.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Please cast your vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, that's going to bring us to item 3A, program highlight EHS JAG K program.
Present on the JAG program and how exciting that we have a nice audience so more people will learn about it.
All right, good evening. I would like to start off by thanking the board for allowing us to come here and present about our program to you guys. We're very excited about this opportunity. My name is Ramsey Sieber. I am one of our career specialists at Emporia High School. To my left is Julissa Vasquez. She is our Career Association president for Emporia High School. And next to her is Alfonso Barajas, and he is a Career Association member at Emporia High School. So, with that, I just want to talk a little bit about JAG-K for those of you who may not have heard of our program before. But JAG-K stands for Jobs for America's Graduates, Kansas. We are a nonprofit that partners with public schools to provide elective classes that support students academically, socially, and professionally. Our mission is pretty simple. We're here to help students earn their high school diploma and transition successfully into college, the workforce, or military, whatever they're choosing. So on to slide 2. We often say that today's students are tomorrow's employees, leaders, and community members. That belief is at the heart of everything we do. Our mission is to help students identify career paths that match their interests and strengths while supporting them through whatever challenges might impact their success. And we do this with our JAG-K model. To accomplish this, JAG-K uses research-based model. Students are selected through an advisory committee. At Emporia High School, it's made up of our principals and our school counselors to ensure that we are serving those who would benefit the most from the program. They participate in student leadership through our career association, receive instruction through competency-based curriculum, and engage in project-based learning. We also focus heavily on employer engagement, helping students experience real-world career exploration. After graduation, we continue supporting them through a 12-month follow-up period where we ensure that they're remaining on task to achieve their goals. So what are the core competencies that JAG-K does? We have 37 core competencies grouped into areas like career development, job attainment, job survival, leadership, and personal skills. These are skills employers consistently identify as necessary to workplace success. Things like communication, problem solving, teamwork, resume writing, interviewing, and financial literacy. So by the numbers, JAG-K currently has about 121 programs across 85 schools in Kansas. We are serving roughly 6,500 students each year. We also support a transitions program such as Success Academy, which helps youth in foster care and justice-involved individuals. Next, I'd like to talk about our Career Association. One of the most powerful parts of JAG-K is the Career Association. Students run for officer roles such as president, vice president, secretary, parliamentarian, and public relations. And they lead events for our program throughout the year. This gives students real experience playing organization skills and leadership. Like I said, Jalissa is our president at Emporia High School, but not only that, she ran for a regional president position and came in second, so she is our regional vice president. That is still an amazing accomplishment. Because of that, she got to go to Washington, D.C. She actually just got back from Washington, D.C., so I'd like to hand the mic over to her so she could talk a little bit about her experience.
Yeah, I went to Washington, D.C. last week, and I just wanted to talk about how grateful I am for this experience. I've been in JAG for all 4 years in high school, and this year I was able to be the president and vice president in my region, and I got to meet so many people from across the whole United States. I met people from New Jersey, from California, from the New Virgin Islands, and I've never even heard about that. But I just am grateful for all the people that I met, and it was basically a National Student Leadership Academy, which is like a camp for us leaders. We just got taught like etiquette, we got to network with people, and we just got to find out what a true leader is.
Thank you, Jalissa. So not only do we offer leadership opportunities like that, we like to have our students have a chance to compete. So we've gone to competitions. I've been here, this is my 3rd year. Every year I've gone, we've had students make it to state. I've had a couple make it to nationals. Last year, Alfonso competed in our employability category and made it to state. So I just wanted to hand over the mic to him and let him talk about his experience.
It was really fun, and it gave me a lot of opportunities that I didn't think I would get. And it even helped me like practice an actual interview, which helped me land a job at Brahms here on 6th Street. And it was really fun. I got to learn new things, meet new people, network, and it was just providing me with a lot of opportunities that just really helped me with my life skills.
Thank you, Alfonso. So going along with that, employer engagement, we work closely with local employers in the Chamber of Commerce to help students explore different careers. Each year, programs must complete a minimum of 10 tiered employer engagement activities, including job shadows, guest speakers, field trips, and work-based learning experiences. These opportunities allow students to connect what they learn in class to real careers. And then I'd like to talk a little bit about our positive outcomes. Our ultimate goal is for every student to achieve a full-time positive outcome after graduation, whether that's employment, apprenticeships, military service, or enrollment in a post-secondary program. So on to statewide outcome data. JAG-K consistently outperforms national standards. Our graduation rate is between 95 to 98%, which is well above the JAG national benchmark of 90%. Full-time employment sits above 80%, and our post-secondary education is nearly double the national criteria. These numbers demonstrate the impact JAG-K has not only had in high schools, but in long-term student success. Something new that they wanted us to bring up and talk about from the bigwigs in Topeka is we are rolling out a new micro-credentials pilot. So this year, JAG-K is focusing on job readiness, pathway navigation, and financial literacy. We are also piloting micro-credentials in Wichita and Augusta with plans to extend that statewide the next upcoming school year. I volunteered to already do that for financial literacy this year, and currently right now, they're not having the best time with it, but they are working on getting a work ethic credential through the Micro Works, which they'll be able to put on resumes and on LinkedIn, which is pretty cool. So I don't want to take up too much more of your time. In closing, JAG-K is more than just an elective. It's a support system, a leadership program, and a career readiness pathway. I'm proud of the work that our students are doing at Emporia High School and appreciative of your support in making programs like this possible. Thank you so much. First time, kind of new here.
Are there any questions the board has. We're all very impressed with the success you're having, and I only would hope that we could have more kids in JAG-K because the success you're having.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for reaching out and wanting to come tonight. That's awesome. I did have a question for Jalissa and Alfonso. I just wondered what made you choose JAG? Was it a teacher that reached out to you? Did you have a friend that did it or a family member? Or what made you choose JAG?
I joined JAG my freshman year, and it was actually already on my schedule. And I was there for open house, and I met my former teacher, Aguirre, and he basically told me that I can join the program if I wanted to, but if I didn't want to join it, then I could always change it out with my counselor. So I decided to just go to the class and see what it was about, and I really liked it. I saw the potential in the program, and I was actually an officer that year, and I've been an officer all 4 years, and I mean, it gained me a free trip to Washington, D.C., so.
Well, I heard what it was and what it would help you do, and I've always been a little concerned and a little focused with my future. So I've always been wanting to just grow life skills, learn new things, and just stuff that would help me in my later life after I'm done with high school. And it sounded like a really good opportunity for me, so.
Sounds like it's really paid off for both of you, so thanks for sharing. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. That's going to bring us to item 3B, public comments. Public comments are allowed for a duration of 3 minutes per speaker to be timed by the board clerk. Speakers must sign up in person for public comment by 1 p.m. the day of the board meeting. Casey, do we have any public speakers?
We do have one public speaker tonight, Amy Fair. If you'll come to the podium, please.
Good evening, board members, Dr. McGeehee, guests. Tonight I am representing parents of children who attend the USD253 Child Care Program. As the cost containment team discusses a variety of topics with all the consequences and ramifications, we ask when the rankings are presented that you support maintaining the child care program. A few years ago, through the listening tour, staff consistently talked about the need for the child care in Emporia. The district listened and progressively acted on it. In 2023, the child care program was established. Yes, with ESSER funds that were going to expire eventually. Therefore, financially, it seems a little negligent not to have had a plan when that expiration day hit. Starting a child care program should not be a temporary decision, but a long-term one. If the child care program were to close, we would be without child care. 33 families, 36 children, and 8 infants on a wait list. Those soon-to-be parents potentially have a false sense of security in thinking they did not need to reach out to other child care providers. Infants are one of the hardest spots to secure. All of us families would be searching for child care on short notice. As seen on the provided document, current wait lists are a minimum of 6 months to over a year, mostly toward the latter. These wait lists range from 2 to 25 infants or toddlers. Thus, we are out of time to secure appropriate alternatives if the program were to close. Therefore, the need for the child care program is significant. If there are ways to reduce costs, does it need to be cut? We know the benefits are worth some costs as seen in the documents provided. So how can parents help lower the cost? The child care coordinator has been working tirelessly to find these ways. We want to help too. Parents are willing to help organize fundraisers, contribute and donate supplies, and pay a higher weekly rate to keep child care within the district and support costs. The food cost has been said to be a huge chunk. How can we help? How do surrounding districts keep their child care programs open? Could we learn how to model after them? We want to help. We recognize that perspectives on child care can differ, especially for those who may not have children aged 0 to 5. Your decision, though, will affect close to 50 families. It affects our lives, our jobs, and the possibility of our children becoming future Walnut Patriots, Logan Lions, and so on. We love our jobs, and for us to continue to engage, empower, and inspire our students, we ask you to acknowledge the need, empathize with our children and us, and maintain the child care program. I appreciate your time tonight. Please look over the documents, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item is the consent agenda. Find my wording. That's not, we reworded it. The items listed on the consent agenda are those for which the board has received information in advance and have been thoroughly reviewed. Approval of the items may be made in single motion, second, and majority vote with no separate discussion of any item listed. Should a member of the board desire to discuss any item at the request, it will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. What are the wishes of the board?
I move to pass the consent agenda as submitted.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Please cast your vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. And that's going to bring us to, I believe, 6A, FY25 Fiscal Audit Report.
Interim Assistant Superintendent Josh Schwartz is coming up to, I believe, introduce our auditor, and then we'll hear from him.
I'm going to turn this over to Sean Gordon to present the findings.
Good evening, everyone. Yes, my name is Sean Gordon with Gordon CPA. I'll go through the preliminary draft of the fiscal year 25 audit report that you're seeing on your screen now. We'll start with pages 1 through 3. This is called the Independent Auditor's Report. The most kind of significant paragraph here is page 1, the third paragraph down. You'll see an italicized heading called Unmodified Opinion on Regulatory Basis of Accounting. That paragraph there says that we've issued or will issue the district for the fiscal year June 30, 2025, the highest and cleanest auditor's opinion that we can issue. So that reflects very well on the financial and internal control management by district staff during that year ended June 30, 2025. The next section forward, page 4, is called the Summary Statement of Receipts, Expenditures, and Unencumbered Cash. Here you'll see in the left-hand column there all of the different funds of the district, followed by beginning cash, receipts, expenditures, and then ending cash for each of those funds. At the very bottom of that right-hand column, you'll see that the district is reporting a little under $39 million on hand as of June 30th, 2025. Next section forward is called the Notes to the Financial Statements, and that runs from pages 5 through 13. For those of you that have been on the board for a few years now, this section is mostly the same as what you've seen over the past few years. No major changes required by the state to this section. Here we discuss and disclose different items such as accounting policies that the district follows, information on deposits and investments of the district, long-term debt information, budgeted transfers that were made, involvement in the Capers retirement program, many items discussed here, as I said. The next section forward is kind of more detailed breakouts of those funds that we saw previously on page 4. And those run from pages 15 through 40. And if you go to page 15, which is one more page down, here we present the general fund. So you can see here we break out the different types of receipts and expenditures that take place within each fund. And then also we present a budget column since it was a budgeted fund, so you can see how the budget or the fund operated against the budget that was adopted for fiscal year 2025 as well. And then I'll have you go down a few pages towards the end of the PDF, starting on page 41. Anytime an entity receives and spends $750,000 or more of federal grant money, it's required to undergo what's called a single audit. If you go forward one more page there. It's required to undergo what's called a single audit, which is a requirement by the federal government. So for fiscal year 25, here we present on page 41, this page here, all of the different grant revenues and receipts of the district that took place during the year. And we're also required to audit some of those grant expenditures. So for fiscal year 25, we focused on the child nutrition grant cluster that's recorded in the food service fund, and then the special education IDEA grant that's recorded in the special education fund. We checked in on those two grants, programs to make sure that the district followed all state and federal requirements and guidelines regarding those grants, make sure that money was spent accurately according to the federal government as well. And we've also issued an unmodified opinion regarding that federal single audit. So again, it reflects very well the financial and internal control management of those grant programs by district staff. That's it for the preliminary draft of the audit report. We had a great audit with Kate and everybody else involved in the audit process. We do appreciate their help in getting us items that we requested and then answering our questions as well. So we do appreciate that. With that, I'll stand for any questions that you have on the audit report or the audit process as a whole.
What questions, if any, do we have?
You led with the most important part.
Yes,
that
ma'am.
it was clean and great, so.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't have much beyond that.
Just curious, how many districts do you audit in Kansas, or however you look at it?
We have over 65 cities, counties, school districts that we audit, but specifically school districts, we have about 15, I believe, that we audit.
Okay, this is an action item, so to entertain a motion.
I move to approve the fiscal year 2025 fiscal audit report as submitted.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Please cast your vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for moving me up on the agenda tonight. Thank you.
That's going to bring us to item 6B, the district facility rental usage rate approval, first reading.
Yes, this is Mr. Swartz again, is going to come up. This is work that was started, Mr. Fisher, our high school principal, was working with Mr. Swartz's predecessor on this particular item. We've finally got around to getting to it and bringing it back to you again. Want to do a first read and just have Josh kind of go through and hear what your questions and your feedback are so that we can see how to go about coming back again in a month and getting this approved.
Okay, the primary piece of, that would be an action item would be the fee structure. That's the part that's connected to board policy that would be approved. We did include the procedure so you could see how there are 5 different categories. If a entity was to use the facilities, how those groups would be classified, and then a certain fee structure based on that entity's identification. Overall, this was really picked up where Mr. Fisher had left off, made a few adjustments to, I would say, work with community partners, strengthen some of the community partnerships with Employer Rec, for example, as I think there's a clause at the bottom of the document that really just, that will be a mutually beneficial agreement. There wouldn't be charges if Employer Rec was using facilities, and it's one of those arrangements where they will use our property, we will use theirs, we will just communicate back and forth to keep that arrangement in a fair, equitable manner, just through communication. The other key piece, we do have there is a custodian charge per hour for every group that would use the facility. And that could be discussed with that group based on, the goal of ours is if we have to bring in additional people to operate an event, we would want to recoup that cost. If there's already somebody on staff that's working that, there would not be a charge to the group to do that. So I feel like there could be a way to work through the different, there's more than just a flat $25 an hour. There could be some ways to work through that as we've looked at that procedure. So I've tried to think of some of the key questions you might have. guess that, those are my key points. Anything else that is on your mind about this one before, again, first read, no approval tonight?
On the custodians, I think I asked this on Friday, but I don't think I asked it very clearly. So like if your event was from 8 in the morning until 4 in the afternoon, it wouldn't necessarily mean that the custodian was there the entire day. It would be like when they came in to open things and make sure things were set up and then cleaning up afterwards. So you wouldn't be paying $25 for every
Full
hour
6
of the
hours,
event.
correct.
It would be whatever time it took the custodian to complete their duties,
Correct.
right?
We'd work through that. For
Okay.
example, if somebody needed to open the building, that would be some, time for that, and then
Sure.
closure for sure. And then it probably depends on how big the event is. If there's going to be quite a few people using the bathroom, we might ask that they pay for more just because you
Sure.
don't want a bathroom
Right.
if facilities aren't taken
Or
care
if
of.
they
then
have
you
to be maintained throughout the day for a big event.
Yeah, it
Sure,
probably depends
sure.
on how much
Okay.
maintenance throughout the day is
That
needed.
makes sense. Okay.
And on top of that, is that like, but if the custodians were already working, that would be separate?
Correct. That would
Okay.
not be, if that was already during a day where we had a person on schedule, this would not be in addition to, so there would not be a charge.
Thank you.
I have several questions, but since we're on that, I do have a question about that. So I noticed that it's across the board, no matter what the position is, it's 25. And I'm just mindful, serving on the Cost Containment Committee, that I'm a little bit worried about passing just this flat rate because it could vary by person. And so I just don't want us to get into a position where, we're charging 25, but actually it would be $40. And so how can we just sort of have a one-size-fits-all approach when I think maybe auditorium lighting would be someone who would have to be at the event for a couple of hours? So I don't know if that fee structure really, I just want to make sure we recover 100% of, the hourly rate, the taxes, all of our
Okay.
expenses, personnel
Okay.
expenses.
We can look through some examples and see how that would work out. Does that work as a way to come back next time?
One component of that too is that you might end up in certain circumstances where the person that's on duty is an $18 an hour employee. So you kind of sometimes you're just trying to take an average.
I think maybe I originally partly brought this up, and I know one of the first things we say in this is that the real point of this isn't to create revenue. It's to really kind of recoup a little bit of our resources that we're taking. And I just would encourage somehow if we could kind of moderate the fees a little bit, like you're talking about, that this isn't per hour charges all the time. Just in my own experience of being with teams that are using the facilities, most of these kids are our kids. Most of the time it's 100% our kids. So, it just gives me a bad feeling to think that we're charging them anything, but I'm also not against charging them a little something. I think this might be a little much in some cases. And I do realize if there's, for example, a tournament or something, that would be different. Or if it was some money-making profit type of thing, that's, I'm okay with that. But most of the time, when it's local students, and parents using this, then I would really want to see us kind of try to bring these fees down as much as we could. Also, we're a big district. We have a lot of buildings, and I feel like we have students and families in our buildings like every night. And it's hard to keep those facilities clean. It's hard to maintain them. And I know teams are wanting in there one right after the other. And so the reality of us being able to clean after this team when the other team's in, or waiting to get on the court as soon as you get off, or waiting to get in that room as soon as you leave, the reality is there's not a custodian that's going to be able to do that. So I think any compromise we can make on trying to, hey, we'll leave a broom out and you can sweep that court. Sometimes we'll sweep the court anyways because it's just the right thing to do and it's easy to do and keeps kids safe. So anything we can do to kind of bring this down. I know we're also already requiring that they have some sort of insurance, So that's an additional cost they're already paying to be participating and being in our facilities. So just being mindful of that as we consider this.
Yeah, I'm struggling a little bit with the fees because I feel like our community, they're our taxpayers, and so they've already paid for these facilities. And so I'm not sure I'm totally comfortable double charging, but I also am appreciative of having something, So the one thing that struck me is that like all of the facilities are being treated pretty equally. So like the library, the learning stairs would be the same cost as like renting our turf field, and we know that the cost of replacing turf is really significant. So I think that's where I'm having a little pause, especially, we've seen some semi-pro teams wanting to use our turf fields, and we know the replacement cost would be huge on those. So I'm not sure, like I did look that like in Wichita for their fields, they charge $500 for a day. Goddard, they charge $800 for their track field for like, more commercial use. And so I just think maybe we need to, there's a difference between, the Emporia Soccer Academy or FC Emporia doing, the FC Lions, is that the youth, other youth one? Like the kids, there's a difference between them, and I'm all for them using our facilities at the lowest cost possible. But then when it comes to adults or, adult leagues or professional or semi-pro leagues, I think we need to think about doing something a little bit more.
And I would agree with that, just from rec commission experience. In some of our fields, actually, we will designate just for children and then other fields for adults, because when the adults play on them, it tears them up more in a way that becomes really significant later on. So when we start to get more creative about how are people going to use these facilities, I think we need to remember it's going to be very different between groups, right?
I would, Jen and I were on this committee, and I know you're on your way out, lady, but I would love for that committee to reconvene and look at this if at all possible, before we come back. So maybe we can make some recommendations. I know it's the holidays, everybody's busy, but we did a lot of those via Zoom, and I think we could probably, or Meet, Google Meet, I think we could probably pull it off again. So I would be in favor of meeting as a group again, especially since we got so much input from all the folks involved, and I'd like to hear from them again.
Yeah, and I'm really glad that Jamie did that homework on districts outside of ours, because I think we do need to be comparable to that. And get our main sources from the people not paying taxes in our community, and when they want to use ours, get more of it that way. So thank you for finding that out.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. That brings us to item 7B, 2026-2027, Emporia High School Course Guide, second reading. Oh, sorry. I skipped over the 7A EHS Naviance program overview, which everybody is very excited about, I'm hearing.
Is it Naviance, Naviance, Naviance? Naviance?
Cheryl's been leading us astray. Sorry, I had to listen to our support person say it 1,000 times now, so.
Potato, patata, Stephanie McCracken, Assistant Principal at Emporia High School and CTE Director, and Roxana Peraza, the Department Chair, are here to just talk about a program, a resource that was adopted this year to replace two resources that they had before, so.
Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna lower that. So, as you mentioned, my name is Roxana Peraza. I'm one of the high school counselors here at Emporia High. So, to begin, we really wanted to start off with the reason for us really looking at another program. In May of 2024, KSD changed the graduation requirements for the class of 2028 and beyond. In those requirements, many of you heard just the different changes that they're expecting of us to be able to track. Some of those are going to be adding a STEM elective, making sure that they have 4.5 credits towards an IPS, their individual plan of study, and then also having post-secondary assets. And that task itself, you can see to the right-hand side, has a lot of different varieties that they can pick from. But thinking about a school of 1,200 students, 4 counselors, being able to make sure that we are talking about this, making sure our students are aware of these requirements early on, that is a big undertaking. And so a program like Naviance became a big deal to have so that we can track this information, so that we can build up their IPS. So that kind of leads us to our presentation of why Naviance. I keep saying it wrong.
It's okay, you'll get.
I'm like, Naviance? I'm like, I can change it.
So yeah, just talking about why Naviance here. One of the biggest things and one of the biggest positives to this is that we were able to replace 2 programs with 1. So we were able to get rid of Zello and UScience. Both of them were good programs, but Naviance actually does all of the things that they do just in one platform that's a lot easier for our students, staff, counselors, administrators to kind of navigate here. The other great part about it is that it is owned by PowerSchool, so it is a component of that. So those two actually sync, and we are able to get a lot of data that feeds into Naviance already and really help us with that. So we'll talk about how that'll help us kind of streamline enrollment and things like that here later on as well. Like I said, it has all of our college, career, and life readiness tools in one place. So with Zello and UScience, we had students doing things like their personality skills survey and their career clusters, and there was a skill assessment. All of that is still housed in Naviance now, and it takes it and it will adapt things as we go. So like I said, it's integrated with our IPS requirements, and it's just really centralized and nice to work through here. So focusing on that IPS component and that graduation planning, a big thing that we're really excited about is getting that 4-year course plan available to all of our students, so that, you know, as freshmen, when they're starting to look at what they are interested in and choosing courses for leading up to after high school, this will help us to be able to look at it, not only administrators, counselors, teachers, but parents will have access to this as well, so that we can see, you know, if you're interested in business after high school, are you taking the classes that you have available to you? Are they building on each other? And are you going to end up with maybe some certifications at the end that'll help you out? Like Ms. Peraza said, graduation requirements, there's several different ways to track it on there. There is a portfolio section where students can go through and update academics. They can put community service on there, any kind of accolades that they acquire. And then there is a resume portion that pulls from the portfolio. So depending on what they are doing, they can select different components of it and kind of fill in, and then they can add to that later as they want.
And as you can see, it also has grade levels for middle school. So the goal is obviously start these conversations about pathways, career clusters, those kinds of things early on. And so that's one of the things that we as high school counselors, we're getting ready right now to start the enrollment process. Time is of the essence. You know, there's 4 of us, and we have 300 plus students on each of our caseloads. We have the highest student to counselor ratio in the district, but we are expected to get them to graduation. We have to have a credit check for each student. We have to take the time to make sure we are not missing a graduation requirement. You'd be hard pressed to find a counselor who their biggest fear is getting to the last semester of senior year and realizing, I forgot a science credit, I forgot a math credit. We are human beings, and the part that we want to emphasize is obviously the students taking control of so much of their future planning, so that we, when we meet with them, and you know, there's students that we have in our alphabets that enrollment time that we sit one-on-one with them, that's the 10, 15 minutes of one-on-one time that they get with us. So obviously we have limited time for enrollment, and pulling up their profile, pulling up their surveys that they've already completed. For example, right now, I could pull up my own son's, and I could see that his top cluster is hospitality. And so now, thinking about enrollment, okay, let's think about that a little bit more. I can also pull that and see that he is an introvert. And so that also helps me to help him in what types of classes he's picking. And so that's the biggest piece for us as counselors, being able to have those intentional conversations that when they are with us, that we can look at this big picture that they themselves have tailored along the way. So the next piece is going to be the college planning and the college planning tools. So this is also a really nice feature that really was something that was exciting. It pairs up with Common App. Common App is a national provider for students to apply for colleges. Just this afternoon, I helped a student apply to Gonzaga. We've had students applying to Harvard, to the University of Chicago. It pairs it with Naviance so that we can upload transcripts there. We can upload the counselor profile. So students aren't going to multiple pages. They're able to do this on one platform. It also helps them select colleges that they're thinking of applying to, so then they can build that and see when deadlines are. We have been posting the scholarships that are due on Naviance as well, and so that's been a big key piece of, we want our students to have that buy-in so that they know where to look. It's in one platform instead of saying, oh, well, go here for Google Classroom, go here for to find this piece. It's all in one place that they can all access. They can log their letters of recommendations. They also can put their college visits if they've actually visited a place. They can also, we as counselors can put when a college is coming to visit. So we had John Hopkins come to visit. We put that out there. Students can sign up that they're interested. We make their passes. So it's all just one place for them to access. So that's been really nice, and we can historically track how many students are going to these visits. Like when Emporia State comes during the middle of the day, like during cap time, we can say, oh, okay, these students visited with them. And so that's been really neat, and we also are able to emphasize our local colleges. We can actually put that at the very top of some of our college match part. So we can put our Emporia State University, our Flint Hills Tech College at the top, and then put all the in-state schools, because we know that that's where a large portion of our students are looking at as well. So that part has been really, really nice. It has been obviously us as counselors getting used to that program as well, but it has been really nice having it all in one place. So the next one is going to be the career planning tools, which I touched on a little bit just with my own son and his own career clusters, and that's very much tailored to the CTE pathways, but also you're able to pick a very specific degree. So for example, here, you picked a school counselor. You're able to see that that job has grown 0.74 in the state of Kansas, so it's very relevant to what's happening here in our communities, what kind of education you require to get that, which is also very accurate, and the point of a salary, which very accurate. And so if it's growing, if it's declining, you're also able to see the different type of classes you should be looking at taking if you're interested in this career. So if you look at the next slide, you can actually see that in California, for example, it's growing exponentially. You could see in Kansas it's growing somewhat, and then you could see that there's certain states that it's declining. But then you can scroll down and you can see active job openings in that career field that I can use my school counseling degree in. But the plan of study part is really nice because it breaks down what kind of English classes should you be taking, what kind of math you should be taking. And you could see that it actually has a course plan for every single career that it has listed, and it's hundreds of careers that are listed. Of 9th grade, you should start with Algebra 1. Then 10th grade, you should do geometry. But then also it gives some ideas of types of electives. Now these are generic ones, but we can at least say, hey, this class might be more like human growth and development or something that we offer. But the nice thing is that it also offers years 13, 14, 15, 16, that's college. So what kind of college classes might they be taking? And so that really helps them really think ahead as to how to plan. You know, looking at this career, college algebra, that's probably something I want to challenge myself with my senior year, because that's something that I'm going to have to deal with in college. And so those are the good pieces that we can pull from student to student. We can pull that up when we have them in our office looking at their enrollment sheets and really compare and contrast as to how we're helping them best.
There's so much stuff here. I feel like we're just scratching the surface of this, really. On the next slide, there is also a curriculum aspect of Naviance as well. So that college career life readiness, and it actually has different sequences or different scopes for each grade level. So on this, I just included the scope and sequence for freshmen versus seniors, just so you can kind of see how it does build over time. When we look at our freshmen, They're going to be focused more on, getting to know themselves more, that social emotional piece, whereas as it transitions through high school and you end up as your senior year, that's going to be focused more on that career readiness, that college readiness, and financial planning as well as a big aspect of that they cover, which I think is really nice for our students. So that financial planning piece covers scholarships, financial aid, but then it also covers budgeting if maybe college isn't an option that you're looking at right now. So it does cover quite a bit there. The last thing that we just kind of wanted to point out today is it also offers a data wall to administrators and counselors that kind of help us to keep track of our students as well. Right now, since we're barely 6 months into this even, there's not a lot for us to pull from. I'm really excited to see what this looks like next year as our freshmen go to sophomore. But you can see right now, like with our 9th grade class, we can select their career clusters and pathways, and that is data that I could pull to give to our pathway leads to see, hey, there's this many people interested in health science. Are these students that are enrolled right now? Are they in the right classes? Are they going the right places? Same thing with kind of our student pathways, knowing if they are wanting a 4-year degree, a tech college, are you wanting to enter the military? So I can see that 3 of them right now are interested in military service. The little envelope out to the side, when they're scheduling visits, that would allow Ms. Peraza just to click the envelope and email those students and let them know, hey, the Army's coming on Tuesday. That'd be a great time for you to visit with them. The other thing that we've really liked is the usage report. So this would have been our report from November. Out of our entire freshman class, during the month of November, there were 14 students that didn't log into Naviance. So we can click on that and figure out exactly who those students are. If they were absent that month during the lessons, if there's some other ongoing circumstance, and it lets us meet with them kind of individually and figure out what's going on so that we don't have people falling through the cracks on this.
Yeah, and I would say that for us, being able to see which students are participating, not participating, but even for, things to offer, I can see that of the different pieces to this are completed on Thursdays during CAP. So having that dedicated time for them to really think about their futures, their goals, and plan for themselves. I can see, okay, 28 of the freshman class are looking at a bachelor's degree. That's going to help me when I'm looking at enrollment. Okay, we're going to have to do some more college prep stuff over maybe some of the other types of classes. And so that's really important for us as counselors to just really think ahead to. If you were to go onto the actual version of this, you could drop it down by each individual class. You can change the cluster, what you're looking at. It's so detailed and really nice to just be able to see that for our students and how we can best support them. So that's really exciting. So the buildup of it is the other part. Us changing to Thursdays. This is a designated CAP lesson. They're getting 0.25 credit each semester towards this because this can count towards their IPS credits. That's going to be something that they are using towards their graduation requirements. And so that is something that we're really excited about because it puts some depth into what they're doing and also for their CAP teachers to get to know them better and really build on those relationships and have those conversations. Like I said, like for my own son, he was marked as an INFJ or something like that. So then he can compare with his peers. What are you? And I think for us in the professional world, we know like those are the things that we hear of. It's also paired up with AchieveWorks. And so that's a national organization that does those types of assessments. And they're very real, very pertinent things that they can take into the community and be like, this is something I can even add on my resume. That's exciting for them. So definitely that's the piece that, we wanted to also point out that with CAP, this year was the first year that we designated Thursdays as the CAP. There's no travel. They are doing their CAP lessons, but it has been really nice. And as each lesson is put out, that's been something that we could see all our data growing. And the lessons are, so the ones that she showed, they're made by Naviance, so that's not something that like we are coming in the summers and doing our planning. We are able to assign that, and they're not just click through. They actually have to type in different prompts, and so it's really interactive for our students as well. And then the last part is what's coming. So we're really excited. So for those of you who've had children in our district, you know that counselors present to the classes individually because each individual class has different expectations. So we're excited to do all the presentations on one day, on January 16th. It's one of those half days that we will be doing rotation, so all the classes get all the information on the same day instead of it's scattered throughout the month or 2 months. And we'll also have a CTE fair that same time, so that's going to be another rotation. And another rotation is going to be part of their IPS. Also resume building, and then for our seniors, they'll be having senior meetings and what do they need to do to prepare for that. So obviously that's going to help us with our community partnerships. That's going to help us bring in ESU, FHTC, Kansas Works, make those connections also with the CTE fair. And that's going to be something that, personally as a counselor, I'm really excited to just have to prepare for one day of presentations as opposed to multiple. And that's just going to be something that we're going to emphasize is a really important day for them to be there.
Last few things to kind of wrap up. Like I mentioned, there is parent login access, and that's something that we will roll out at conferences this year. So something to look forward to in the spring. Like I said, we are continuing to work on that enrollment course guide that'll go along with Naviance. That has been a lot of work for Ms. Bloomquist and Stephanie Murray have really been helpful for that because I had no idea how much went on the backside of Power School. It's a lot of stuff. And then obviously we still have some continued training to do with our staff, and there's a lot of expansion that's possible with community as well with this because they have the opportunity on this platform to be able to post job openings, community service opportunities, work-based learning, internships, things like that. So something that'll be really good for our students here coming up. Thank you for your time tonight.
Okay, what questions do we have?
So much. I feel like clapping because that was an amazing presentation. Like this program just sounds incredible. So good job. And I love that it's going to really just help you. It's going to help students really figure out, their path through high school. So I'm excited about this.
Me too.
I do have questions. Good questions, not hard questions. So how did you hear about the program? Did you learn about it at a conference, or did someone reach out to you?
So we were able to attend the American School Counselor Conference 2 years ago, saw a table, but then I think we got in the loop, and once we saw that it was connected to Power School, and that was at the same time that the graduation requirements were changing. We were really starting to have those conversations about how are we going to track things. And so then we started having meetings. Ms. Lead put together some meetings and conversations with our tech team, our principals. And so that's how that kind of started. An email came through, and that's how it started off. Yeah.
Good. Do you think that by having this program, you'll be able to help more students become CTE completers?
Oh, I think, yes. It's going to really help track that and be able to help them see the process up front and just be able to plan it out ahead of time.
Sure.
I think
I was kind
it'll
of
be.
thinking like if they weren't on a pathway,
Oh, yeah.
but then you see what they're taking, you'd be like, you're halfway to a
Absolutely.
pathway,
And I
right?
think that that's a big part of that, I think, is helping our CAP teachers see that as well. Our teachers do an incredible job helping their students during that IPS time and making it easier for them to see that big picture as well and encourage students, I think, is really going to help as well.
And I've been tossing around the idea that I heard that Geary County Public Schools is starting their pathways in 8th grade so that they end up with more completers. So if we were to consider that, would our 8th graders also be able to use this program?
Yeah, so as in the first slide, you could kind of see it that it could start as early as 6th grade, and our middle school actually, I believe that our license covers middle school, all that. So they also they have lessons tailored starting at 6th grade, and we actually have some of our middle schoolers when they come, they've brought in Intro to Agriculture. They've brought in those kinds of classes. That's the beginning of a pathway, and so those are really nice things to build upon. Like I said, at the middle school level, and really help them understand why this is important, why them having a buy-in to their courses. And it's not what your friend's doing. You're your own unique person, and you should make choices that work for you.
Nice. And then the last one for me was that I thought that Cheryl told us that you might come back in the spring and let us see what the program's like, which I think would be, next year, okay, which would be super cool.
I did tell her
do
that
look forward to that.
actually being able, at the beginning of this year, we sat down with our staff and actually walked them through and showed them all of the things that the program does, and being able to see it run live really is a big thing. It's really got a lot of things to offer when you can actually see it run rather than just seeing the slides.
Nice, that would make for a fun night.
I was just going to ask, and you present a very favorable impression of it. Do you find your students find it easy to use, or they get excited about it?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we've done different lessons during cap time throughout the years I've been in Emporia High School, and it's just become such almost second nature to them on Thursdays. And like I said, I mean, I've had my own son come home and talk about the type of, like, the personality traits. Like I said, those are the things that I feel like high school kids are really excited to talk to each other about, and they're relevant to them. And as it's growing, I feel like it is good. You know, I've had some of our seniors, that's been a change. So even working through the Common App side, because they have to give permission to Common App to have access to Naviance. And so that's been the piece that we are learning that part, and we want to make sure they have access to all those pieces. And so I am excited for the future training options that we have on it, and just kind of dedicating some time. Every time that I log in, I find something new that I really, really enjoy. I haven't found the side of it that glitches. And one of the really cool things, and one of the cool things that happens is, so for example, I looked up the career art therapy. But I was able to also look up, they have videos for every single career. And so they actually have alumni from Emporia State that did the videos for art therapy. And so you can actually look up videos from those universities of relevant careers. And so I do think it ties in everything. And it's a really good way to use their time during cap time, even if they have just a little downtime on that Thursday since they don't travel that day. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think we have, when you approve the schedule for next year, we have a late October work session that's revolving around student success metrics. And I think that this would be a good activity to work into a session like that. The board could experience it firsthand and then also hear an update on how it's going.
Yeah, and I would say that one of the biggest pieces of data that you measure as success is our graduation rates, which I know you guys will talk about. And this is helping us as counselors achieve that too. So we do appreciate that support.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, great job.
Great job.
Okay, we're going to try 7B again. 2026-2027 Emporia High School Course Guide, second reading.
We have Ms. Kinder Bloomquist here from Emporia High to go through the course guide.
Good evening. I don't know if I can follow that. I have a second reading. The only thing that I think we've changed since I was here last time was I had a request from one of our our debate teacher that we allow novice debate and novice forensics to actually count for the speech credit. So that change was made on the copy that you have right now. Other than that, everything is still the same. Do you have any questions for me?
Questions do we have?
I didn't have any. You laid out all the changes pretty clearly for us.
Okay, this is the second reading, so I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve the 2026-2027 EHS course guide as submitted.
A second?
It's been moved and seconded. Please cast your vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you.
Let the work begin. Thank you.
And 7C, 2026-2027 Emporia Middle School Course Guide, first reading.
We have Mr. Brent Burns, the principal at Emporia Middle School, to go through the course guide.
Good evening. How are you? Mr. Balmert said to say hello. He's helping with this as well, but wasn't able to be here. We didn't change a whole lot of things on the EMS course guide. I kind of just have proposed changes, kind of like outline to kind of go through. Change some basic things like the year, change the principal name. One of the bigger things that you may have noticed right away is we took the wording out that said quarter. The reason we did that is so we could have some flexibility with our schedule. Currently, most of our electives are quarter offerings only. It's not that we're going to necessarily make them all semesters or year long, but it does allow some flexibility to allow us to
to decide if we want to do quarters for some, semesters for others. I do have some elective teachers, especially some of my art teachers, that really like the idea of having their kids a little bit longer so they can do some more advanced projects with them and things of that nature. So we do have some flexibility when it comes to kind of what that schedule is going to look like, just by taking out that word so we're not kind of limited to just that quarter piece. We also end up taking out, if you looked at last year's course catalog versus this year's, there was an entire column that mentioned Zello. Kind of goes to what we were talking about with Naviance. We don't have Zello anymore, so that was taken out. I think we're going to end up looking at Naviance some more and seeing if they have some of those career clusters, so maybe we could put that back in for future use. Right now, our 8th graders, just even though that wasn't on my agenda to talk about, they are actually making profiles for Naviance so that when they do enrollment, they're already ready for the high school. And also just to kind of echo what they had said, you know, you can kind of just get lost in that program in a good way. You kind of just, it has all sorts of really neat things. I had a student say, oh wow, I can look at Cambridge University. So it's not even just universities that are local or in Kansas or nationwide, but also international, and the students are starting to use those. Another piece that we did were those CTE pathways. We did 2 small changes to those. One is we used to have an intro to tech. That was a career pathway. We just changed that name to Intro to Skilled Trades. That was a recommendation that Ms. Leeds had shared with me. I believe that has something to do with how that career pathway or that CTE pathway starts out. So that was just a name change, didn't change anything else with that. And then another piece was it used to say that you could do those CTE pathway courses as an 8th grade student or a 7th grade student with administrator approval. We found out that it really needs to be just 8th graders, so you're not going to see 7th graders doing those CTE pathway intro courses. It'll be 8th grade only. So again, just took that piece out right there. I don't know if you remember, there are a ton of electives that have been in the EMS course catalog. I think when I was trying to count them all up, I'm not exaggerating, I think I counted almost 80 that were in there. So I asked my admin and some of my counselors, hey, are we offering all of these? And the list that you see that's on there is just a list of ones that we aren't offering this year and many that we've not offered in several years. Some of them can't remember the last time. They're still coded in PowerSchool, so if we ever wanted to bring something back, we could. But since we're not currently offering them, I felt like there was really no need to keep a whole lot of things that we don't technically offer right now, just to make it a little bit easier when someone's looking through the course catalog. I don't want any kind of confusion. You know, like me, and I really like the long 60s. You know, what is that? But we don't really have anyone that's teaching that right now. So it was really trying to put things in our course catalog that we are hoping to offer in the fall instead of just leaving everything in there. All right. A couple of other very small things. Beginning band and orchestra, at the request of my orchestra teacher and band teachers, they would like to see that to be 6th grade only for beginning band. It's not that they won't take students as 7th or 8th graders, but they kind of would like to see them kind of audition if they have not taken beginning band. The reason being is it's really hard to teach, say, an 8th grader who's never, you know, done music or band and try to read music, and then when they get to high school trying to do marching band right away, when they still don't really understand how to play their instrument, makes it really difficult. So it's important that they have several years of that. So we just made it that beginning band is going to be primarily those 6th graders. There may be some nuances or some circumstances where you could see some of those students that could still join band later, but usually, you know, you're looking at, did they have maybe some lessons on the side, or, you know, maybe they had private lessons or something of that nature. And it does, like I said, really help kind of grow that program. I don't know if you remember from last year, but we made all 6th graders this year have to take up performing arts, whether it's orchestra, band, theater, or choir. So we're actually seeing a lot of our numbers start to grow from those performing arts, and we expect them to keep growing. So that allows us to have some extra sections for a bigger 7th or 8th grade band. All right. We ended up taking 7th grade health off because we already had advanced health. That was one of those redundant ones. We already were offering it that. We didn't need to have both of those in there. It's the same class. It's just advanced health. It's not just for 7th graders. An 8th grader could take advanced health as well. We made sure that there was prereqs for 2 of the classes, which was the Intro to Ag. You have to have animal science. And then for Spartan Media, there's a couple of our computer classes that you need to take before, like graphic design. One of the biggest things that we wanted to remove, and I highlighted it on here, was we are trying to make sure that all of our special education students have the same opportunities for electives. Before, a special education student this year, if, say, they are getting classes for resource math or resource ELA, they actually lose electives. They're not given the same opportunities. What we're doing now is making sure that all special education students have the same opportunities for electives as all of our general education students. I've been working with my team, trying to figure out how we're going to make sure we get them their service minutes as well. part of that, we're kind of waiting on cost and containment and see kind of what numbers may look like for next year. We've looked at several different other schedules from other districts and how they've done that. They've been able to be very successful with that. But we believe it's really important that we make sure special education students have the same number of opportunities as all of our gen ed students. So that's that highlighted piece that I have right there. And then the last part was the administrator approval. That was specific for advanced math. Our advanced math students have to have so many scores on their FastBridge, and there's really kind of no wiggle room. This way, if there are certain circumstances, maybe the student didn't score well, but they've got all these great teacher recommendations. Maybe the kid really wants to push themselves. Maybe the parent wants to help them push. There's some other mechanisms to allow students to get into those advanced math classes instead of just looking at some FastBridge scores. So it gives us, again, more flexibility. A lot of what we did was just to allow flexibility with just the small changes of some of the wording instead of like completely doing a whole overhaul of the entire course catalog. Any questions for me?
I'm not seeing any.
You were pretty thorough.
Yep.
All right, excellent. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
That's going to bring us to 7D, graduation rate.
Yeah, I think Dr. Cardula is going to come up and talk about graduation rates. You'll like this one. It's just one page.
Yeah, it's just one page, but it's exciting stuff. It really links up right nice to the presentation on Naviance. It's kind of the end result. And the reason we do all that work is to make sure kids get to the graduation, get to walk across that stage. So it really, I just wanted to share some celebration with you. You can see that our graduation rate, the red bars are our 4-year graduation rate. Those are kids that graduate in 4 years. We maintained a 90.9%, which is good. We're still shooting to be at 95% at some point. So hopefully with the inclusion of Naviance and all the work that we're doing on that side, we'll get there. The really exciting piece that I want to share is the blue, which is our 5-year graduation rate. Those are kids who don't graduate in 4 years, they graduate in 5 years. Some of them stay at the high school, some of them go to Flint Learning Center and get it done there. But you'll see that number popped to 94%, which is I think the highest we've ever been, which is really exciting. We picked up a number of kids who finished up their program in 5 years. Now, state doesn't really recognize the 5-year graduation rate, but it's important that we're graduating students, and that's why it's a celebration, and why I wanted to bring it to you tonight to show you the progress we're making, because I believe we are making some progress. I think we have actions in place to continue to grow this. So that's really all I have. I just wanted to share this celebration moment with you. Thank you. Have any questions or anything?
Any questions?
No, you're right. That should be celebrated.
Yeah.
5 years matters just as much as 4. Awesome.
They're walking across the stage, which
Yeah.
is important.
It's still a great accomplishment, yeah.
So I did have a question. When students are graduating 5 years instead of 4, what do you see as the alternatives? What are they doing to get completed on that 5th year?
Well, some of them, I think we've talked before. We have freshmen and sophomores who tend not to make enough credits to graduate, so they're behind. We're continually moving and pushing them forward. And those kind of kids, it just takes a couple of years for them to get going. And having a bad freshman year really sets you behind. It's really hard to get caught up. So those are the kind of kids that some of these are. They just need a little bit of extra time to get the credits they didn't get when they were younger. So, but with Naviance and the stuff they're doing with that program, helping kids stay on track, building those relationships, having them linked up to IPS and CTE pathways, so there's a reason for them to be there. I think it's important, and it'll continue to grow these things.
So would you say a lot of them are still attending at the high school or a learning center or some of both?
It's a combination of both. I don't have numbers in front of me, but
Yeah,
some
that's fine.
students
Yeah.
finish the Flint Learning Center, and some stay at the high school and finish as well.
Okay, thanks.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
And item 7E, 2026-2027 calendar recommendation.
I think that's going to be Dr. Cardula also. There's been a lot of work and conversation across the district about calendars. I don't know that any of us think that we have a perfect calendar, but we've worked as hard as we can to take the input from staff, parents, and others to reach a consensus and tweak this year's calendar a bit to make it more amenable to the things we're trying to get done.
So we've been working on calendars. We started with the group in October, November, And we landed on two options to poll the community and staff. And option A is a more traditional, where we were at 2 years ago, where we have late starts, the high school and the middle school. And you can see that the PLTs that we do before school, the same. Jump Start's about the same. First day of school is about the same. Then the big difference between these two calendars is when our PLT time is offered. One, it's on the option A for the secondary, middle school and high school, it's offered during late start. And for the, which is, they do PLC during that time, which is the PLT activity. Elementary does it after school. But option C, you can see that we're doing a lot more of the PLT time on whole days, once a month. And that same, hopefully, will be a little bit better to allow us more time to collaborate. You'll see the parent-teacher conference is the same. Winter break is about the same. Last day of school is about the same. School contact days is a little bit less, which then leads us to having a little bit longer day, because when you reduce school days, it makes your school day a little bit longer. And those start-end times are just approximations of what it could be. That's going to be something we're going to work on in January, to work on the start-end times for next year as well. So the main difference between the two calendars is when PLT time is offered. So those are the comparison. And we did have an option B in there too. Option B was this year's calendar to do it again, and that one didn't make it out of our calendar committee. We surveyed the committee, and it didn't get any. It got one vote out of the group, so it didn't have enough traction to go to the community staff vote. So if you go to the data, we did a survey, and we ended up with 541 responses. And I want to give you a little context. Last time we surveyed the community and the staff, we ended up with 246 responses. So we had almost double, well, I guess not, well, probably 1.5 times more likely, the responses. We had a really good response rate. And you can see the first chart there is, can you make that a little bit bigger, Ms. Jones? Thank you. You can see the first one would be who I am, and that's the parent, guardian, community versus staff. So you can see about 56% of the staff, of the respondents were staff, and the 44% were community. The next one detail what kind of position you are in Emporia. So certified staff was about 67%. Support staff was about 31%. And then the next two were really hard to see, and that's something that I had to add, that I added to it because we didn't have all the data there. So that pie chart is kind of hard to see the percentages. So if we go down a little more, I made the data into a table because I like tables because they're a little bit easier for me to follow than a bar chart. But they're saying the same things, and the headers are the same. It's just you can see the number of respondents and the percentages on that table. It's just a little bit easier. Some people like tables, some people like charts. Just give them both. It just gives you a perception of the breakdown by location in the building, in the district. And then if you keep going down, this was the one that broke down the option, and we had 62% chose option C, which is the one where we do full PLT days, once a month approximately, and 38% chose option A, which was more traditional, which we would have done not this year, but the year before. And then that table there breaks out the percentage of respondents. So you can see the whole, it's 100%, and it kind of breaks it down by who responded. It might be easier to go to the numbers. If you go down a little bit more, we gave you the numbers, so you can see as a district, district members, like I would be in that group, 21 people responded, 7 chose A, 14 chose C. Elementary, 194 responded, 60 of them chose A, and 134 chose C. We had a really good response on parents, 239. 88 chose A, and 151 chose C. Pre-K, 17. 2 chose A, and 15 chose C. Secondary, which is a middle school, high school, Flint Hills Learning Center, 50 chose A, and 20 chose C. And then one thing that we added over there on the far right are total staff counts. I took those off of the cost containment slides. So if you go to the cost containment slides from the first meeting where we had the numbers, those numbers, I added them up. So there's about 205 district people. So we had about 10%. Elementary, about 376 people fell into that category, so we had 52% there. Pre-K, we have about 60 people in that building, would be pre-K, and they have about 28%. Secondary, 262, and we had 70 of those, who were about 27%. So that's kind of how it broke down. What's interesting about this is if you look at the percentages, and you think about magnitude, and do a comparison, elementary and secondary, elementary wanted C almost as bad as secondary wanted A. Because if you divide them out, the ratios are very similar numbers. So it's just interesting how that kind of worked out. So our overall recommendation tonight is for you to accept calendar C as our calendar for 26-27.
Okay, what questions do we have?
I have a couple of questions. Thanks for giving us the data in a way that was really easy to understand. I really appreciate that. Do you have any insight? Well, I mean, I was struck by the difference between the elementary wanting option C and the secondary wanting option A. Do we have any insight on, why that might be the case?
I think I believe the secondary like having Wednesday collaboration. The elementaries, I don't know. One of the things we heard from the county committee at least was that elementary teachers don't necessarily like doing their PLC after school. After they work, then they do PLC. They don't necessarily like that. And that was one of the reasons we're struggling this year as well, is we teach and then we do our early release and do PLC time. It's just hard to teach and then do that. I think that was probably the two big things that we've seen.
One question I had was the start times. Are the start times going to be the same? I think at one point we had staggered start from like the middle school and the high school, and I didn't know where that landed.
Well, that's something I think as we talk about cost containment, that might be something come out of that. We've been talking a little bit with transportation and Michelle Charbonneau about that and asking her what it would take to go back to something like that. And she says it would take about 45 to 50 minutes difference to be able to do a double route. So those are things that we're going to talk with the staff about starting in January. As we start to work on the 27, 28 calendar options, those two things are going to start in the calendar committee in January. And one thing we're going to do with the calendar committee this year too, a little bit different, is we're going to actually include some community members in that too. Typically our calendar committee has been staff members and administrators, so we're going to include some community people, particularly ones with kids in the schools. So that's going to be something we're going to start talking to our principals about as we move forward.
Thank you.
Okay, I think I have questions.
Okay.
I know that I do. And this makes it sound like I'm not a real teacher. I promise I am. Can you explain the difference in what is happening on like teacher workday versus PLT, like those two different blue squares? What's like the differences in those days? And then my follow-up to that is, it seems like some months like don't have any, like the difference in like January and April in like what is offered in those months?
Yeah. So let's kind of break that question down. Let's talk about work days versus PLT days. That's the light blue versus the darker blue color. So our master agreement requires that our teachers have 40 hours of work time. We have I think a couple of those, at least one is an on-site work day, and that's where they would typically do their grades, do work time. But the other ones are off-site. There are teachers, we know they work a lot, and there are options for teachers to do that work at home or at other times, but they can come in on those days and do their work. That was something that our board many years ago put in place. So the other ones, the darker blue, the PLT, in our master agreement, we're required to have 120.5 hours of PLT time. In the PLT time, you can do activities for professional growth. That could be trainings we do. Right now, we're working a lot with our curriculum and assessment and instructional alignment. Anything we're doing to improve our instruction can be things like that. PSYOP training, things like that we can do, are activities that we do during PLT time. Another big activity for Emporia, though, is our PLC time. PLCs are professional learning communities, or PLCs, are one activity that we can do during PLT time. So that's the main difference between the dark blue and the light blue. So I think that's the first two parts of your questions. I don't remember the last part.
That's okay. So I think, let me look back, like January, let me make sure I'm looking at the right option.
Yeah, April does not have a PLT day because that is state assessment time.
Okay.
That is just the only way to be able to get all of our state assessments in, especially with it being right after spring break. So just being able to hit that assessment window.
Okay, yeah, no worries. That makes sense. I was just looking like January has more, and like December has. So basically what you're saying, and I'm just trying to understand because I think different places call them different things. Like on the 18th of December, that's like your end of second quarter work day.
Correct.
Versus PLT happening on the 11th.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And typically, we align those work days with parent-teacher conferences. So you'll see when we have parent-teacher conferences, typically there's a work day before it. Well, there always is a work day before it, and that's where teachers would do their grade cards and get that stuff prepared for parent-teacher conferences. And that's been something, if you look back at our calendars, we've always done a work day prior to a parent-teacher conference time. At least one, preferably the Friday before, but it has been a little bit depending on the calendar.
I just have one other question. So to my understanding, it seems like the difference in what elementary and secondary preferred on the survey was about if the PLT time was before or after school. Correct. Is there not a way to do late start for the whole district?
That would require childcare before, and I think Dr. McGeehee is going to speak to that.
Yeah, I have some experience with this. Late start's one thing for secondary students. It's kind of a different animal for elementary students. I was in my previous district, we had some kind of inequities between secondary and elementary in the way we addressed their PLC time, their work time, whereas we had a schedule that supported it for our secondary folks. They were doing it during the day, every day. And then our elementary folks were being pulled out, and we were putting subs in from time to time to give them like full days. Ultimately, we went to a late start district-wide, but it took 2 years to get there, primarily because of community feedback. It's a challenge that, I mean, you'll definitely get some emotions from your community with regard to trying to deal with a late start. Doesn't mean you can't do it. We did do it, and it's just a matter of having that conversation. I'm happy to hear we're going to have parents on the calendar committee, because that's a good first start. You could move from there to surveying your parents to see what the initial feedback is, and not just whether you could or couldn't do it, but you ask them about, well, what would need to be in place for you to be able to support this, and just see what it would require to get it done. But I think for the most part, if you put a calendar in front of our staff, K-12, that showed late start for everyone and regular collaboration and learning time, I would think it would get overwhelming support. And that's the thing I don't like about our current situation, is we're kind of pitting our elementary against our secondary. We're not doing it, but that's the way the votes align. And I mean, who wants to stay after, and do more work, until 4:30 or whatever, to get it done, versus if you could just have a late start in your schedule and build it in, and it's more regular that way. So we haven't given up on doing it. It's just going to require some work with our community, surveying our community, and I'm glad to hear the calendar team's going to start some of that work.
I do have a follow-up to one of Lillian's questions. I've sat on IBB now for a couple of years, and I know we talk a lot about the PLC time and the PLT. So it looks like there would be less time for collaboration on an ongoing basis, because when you're for the secondary, because when you're meeting every week in your communities. So that was just something that your comments made me aware of. In a big school, there's probably less opportunity. So that was just one thing that I'm mindful of. But my bigger question is, I'm looking at the two calendars, and the thing that strikes me is on option C, I mean, man, our weeks are just really disrupted, our months are really disrupted. So for the first, I mean, I was just counting, like, how many times is there a full week of school? And 7 weeks in the first half of the year are the only, like, solid 5 days a week. And that's a little concerning to me, because I know the more we disrupt, the harder it is for kids to get back on track. So just something that gave me real pause.
Okay, any more questions, comments?
That was some really good discussion, if you're ready for a motion. Since that's how the majority voted, I do move to approve the academic calendar option C for the 2026-2027 school year as submitted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, please cast your vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. That brings us to item 8A, board reports.
We had our Tech College monthly meeting on Monday. Our program highlight was a presentation from former 253 board member Mike Crouch about the FHTC Foundation. It was really interesting to hear how all that started. We also voted to purchase a building for our Precision Ag program. So that's really exciting. And yeah, just overall, very similar to our meetings here.
I think the Emporia Rec Commission is next, and we made the news this week. You can go check out the news because it's litigation related. I won't say much more than that, but I do want to acknowledge that happened because it's out there. But our last meeting was actually fairly short, but probably the big thing that we've been dealing with recently is some pool issues, which I think have talked about here for a while now. We've got some structural issues with one of the pools that's involving a lot of work and assessment to see what we can do in terms of making that a little bit more functional long term. But it's definitely it's a very popular part of our rec center building, but it is also the part of it that costs us the most. Like, if I could snap my fingers and replace one thing, it would be that pool. And so it's going to be a challenge going forward. That's all I got.
We also have the KASB annual convention recap, so if anybody would like to share their experience.
I'll just share that I was able to go for a couple of days, and the first day that I was able to spend the day with our incoming board member, Barbara Fowler. She attended her first KASB day-long training on boardsmanship, and so we had a lot of really great conversations, and I was able to share with her some of our own policies and procedures, and compare that to the advice we are given from KSB. So she was ready and eager to learn and will be a great board member in a few weeks.
As you all know, I'm the delegate from our board to the convention, so that is always exciting to be a part of the business session, and looking forward to welcoming Dr. Emily Reiner into her role as the KSB president for the next year. And on the Friday part of the session, I got to attend winter school law, which was very interesting to hear about upcoming legal and legislative issues affecting our schools.
There's always a lot of good breakout sessions. When I think about the topic titles, they probably stay the same, but one of those being school finance, finance formula, and obviously as a board, we're always interested or very involved in what the legislature will be doing, and also with the school funding with that. Another hot topic, of course, is teacher retention. We know that's always a challenge, and keeping good folks in our system is definitely challenging how we do that. It's always interesting to learn what other districts might be trying or looking at.
I attended a few good sessions. I can't remember the name of one, but it was basically about like decreasing initiative fatigue and streamlining things in your district. And the quote that I wrote down that I had to dig out of my bag was, improvement doesn't come from doing more things. It comes from doing the right things better. And I really found that impactful and thought, you know what, I thought about how we got back to PSYOP and some different things that we're doing in our district, and I think we're on the right path, but definitely, you know, decreasing the onslaught of new and getting better at the things we're already good at.
Yeah, I would echo just some great sessions. The one that sticks out to me is the school funding. I went to an advocacy session, and right now the state of Kansas is in the process of like retooling school funding for the state of Kansas. And the last time this happened, there was a dramatic impact on school funding. So I would encourage all of you to be aware of what's going on with school funding, as there could be some changes that could greatly impact our district. We already have changes that are greatly impacting our district, as you know. As they continue to tweak how we weight students, all those additional things that we get extra money for in our district, it's greatly impacting us and our ability to educate kids. So I would encourage you to stay aware of what's going on in Topeka and reach out to your legislators if you feel so inclined.
Not to pile on too much, but I'll just talk about one related workshop breakout session I went to involved school security, because that's always been something that's kind of in the back of my head. Grew up in that Columbine generation, and so I think about that a lot, and unfortunately it got into my algorithm now, so I get notified about it in the news a lot. But it was really nice this time, because last KASB conference I had went to, I'd gone to a school security breakout session, and it was phenomenal, but it was taught from school security resource officers and personnel from Wichita, but this time around it was a different presenter. I think it was from Mays, and you know, that was really interesting to get a different perspective of it and to see how a different school has done it, right? Because I know how we do it, I know how that other school district did it in Wichita, and then Mays as well. But also just thinking about what it means to feel safe in a building as opposed to being secure in a building, because those are two different things. So just some broader ways to think and analyze some of those issues going forward.
Okay. Any further comments? All right. That brings us to 9A, Superintendent Report.
Yeah, a few items. One, there's an item there about the National Teachers Hall of Fame. They're going to, Dr. Mickelson and I met with the leadership, was in town 2 or 3 weeks ago, time flies, and they were sharing some information about an education summit that they're going to be hosting actually in Disney World in Florida. And they have the resources to fund up to 3 USD253 staff members. And so Dr. Mickelson is kind of taking the charge on identifying who's going to make it down there. And she serves on the National Teacher Hall of Fame board as our representative. And so she will get to go as well. And so an opportunity well deserved. But those participants, I was interested in hearing, you know, because you can go to a lot of conferences and they have you know, you're always going to get the professional development piece. There are going to be sessions to go to and so on. But a couple of the emphasis that I appreciated that this group is going into with this conference is the opportunity for creating a lot of networking opportunities for the teachers that are there to network with folks from other parts of the country, and then even develop not just peer relationships, but try to create some formal mentor relationships for teachers. And so I think it'll be a very meaningful event for the ones that get to go. Our EHS Theater is going to perform at the Kansas Thespian Festival. This is huge news, exciting news. Their piece, A Piece of My Heart, their production, A Piece of My Heart, was selected. They actually scored the highest of all of the entries for this selection to perform at the Thespian Festival. That will be on January 10th. Down in Wichita. I know more details now than even I put in here because I ran into Amanda at the seasonal celebration today, and I got myself put on the pass list down in Wichita on January 10th. that will be at 10 a.m. on that Saturday. If anybody's interested, I'm sure we could probably figure out how to get you in there. But I just wanted to be a part of, our students being celebrated and honored, and look forward. All of the performances have been at moments in time when I'm out of town for something else or not able to attend, and so I'm looking forward to getting to. I'll go to Wichita and see it. But congratulations to them. Got my first opportunity to have a peek at what the seasonal celebration looks like, because when I was here a couple of years ago, it had already happened, and so I very much enjoyed that. And this is the 90th annual seasonal celebration. I assured them that it was not on the list for cost containment, and that we were going to make sure it saw its 100th seasonal celebration someday. A special highlight this year is that 100-member alumni choir. There were actually some of them even there today for the dress rehearsal, but I can see how it would be powerful tonight and tomorrow night, to have them up there above the high school student choir joining in. Unfortunately, couldn't go tonight, and I'll be in New York City tomorrow night, so I won't get to experience that part this year. Cost containment, real quick. Had our 4th meeting last night. The 3 subgroups kept working on their, rating items. We actually kind of forced their hand a little bit this time, made them go through every little item and put a yes or a no by it. If it was a yes, what would you do? What would the value of it be? And then they'll start moving all their yeses over. And really, it's just a yes, I'm open-minded enough to consider that as an opportunity. It doesn't mean that it's yes, it's going to end up on the final list. So, to me, I said, do the hard work now and make a $6 million list so that you can pull a couple $1 million off of it at the end. And that's the positive thing, right? You aren't going to cut as much as you put on the list initially. I wanted to make sure I experienced the same thing we were asking them to do, and so yesterday afternoon I spent some time just kind of going through the list myself and putting my yeses and my nos and kind of figuring out. And now I need to do what we're going to ask the committee to do is kind of pull all those yeses over and then start prioritizing them into phases 1, phase 2, phase 3. Something might get put in a particular phase by the group that we realize is just very difficult to implement, so we might have to push it out because it'll take longer than that. But it's getting all of this feedback from these 75 or 80 people. I have the unique opportunity to walk from room to room and table to table and listen to the feedback and the dialogue, and they're working really hard and leaning on each other. I'm glad that we've set it up the way we have. We've even gotten to the point where, we might take David Carlson with food service and say, hey, can you go over to that other room for a minute? There's a table having a big conversation over there about food service. They've got some questions. And so it's been really beneficial. And at the end of the day, for SLT to be able to take all of that and formulate it into an initial presentation for the board and ultimately then take the board's feedback as a whole. And I appreciate the 3 of you that have been there every time, but and turn it into basically a list of ideas that the board could give us some direction to continue moving forward with. Our goal is to do that by the end of February. It kind of depends on how fast we can work it out of the team component. I think we're definitely going to need the February 3rd meeting, so the last meeting of theirs, and then we've got board meeting on the 11th and the 25th, so it's how fast can the SLT then sort through, pull it together to see if we can get something done in February, but if not, then it would be the March board meeting where I would anticipate we wouldn't want to go any farther than that because, Erica and HR, everybody needs to know kind of, we're holding positions open in some cases, unless we just absolutely know that that's a one of a kind, we got to have it kind of a thing. And so we'll just get through that as quickly as we can and then get the board's blessing and keep rolling. I appreciate the feedback we got tonight. I encourage our staff and everyone to advocate for what's important to them. How can we make the decisions if we don't hear from people? And so I appreciate Amy and the others that were here tonight providing us that input. We were talking about school finance earlier in your sessions. Josh and I went down to a Schools for Fair Funding meeting last week. in Goddard, Kansas. I think it was my second time to go to Goddard, because I think I went to Goddard with Dr. Harder when I was here in 2023 for the same group. But we got to hear, that group is, we're one of 40 other districts, so there are 41 districts in that group, all providing some funding around keeping track of what's happening with regard to school finance, and then the legal firm that John Rob's like the guru of all litigation surrounding finance, whether it be Kansas, Missouri. We worked with him on the Missouri side when we were rewriting formulas there too. So he was there to present to this group. I put a bunch of fun facts in there. It's getting late, so I won't read through all of them. But I thought it was interesting that from April of 25 to November 11, 25, somehow the state found about $2 billion that they didn't know they had in April. So great. One of the things that I highlighted there was that when asked about the smaller gap between revenues and expenditures that exists now, one of the points they made is that it's costing less to fund K-12 because of the decline in enrollment, about a $200 million decrease in our obligation because of fewer students running through the formula this year. But I think it's interesting to go through and kind of see how some of the weightings play out with regard to the actual money that you receive. But that's there for the public to read. I won't read it to you. Appreciate Dr. Jen Thomas and her time on the board while I've been here. You and I dealt with some things, and I appreciate the way you've handled everything that you and I, all of our interaction. And from my perspective, this is a great board, and you were a part of that. And Barb has big shoes to fill as far as filling that role. So thank you.
I just want to thank all of you, and no, I'm not going to cry because, but I have really enjoyed this, and I've told, especially Jamie and Lily and Leslie, I've told you guys multiple times, much more so than I thought I would at the beginning. So, and I really, really want to thank Casey. I've told you repeatedly, I'm not crying. So, but you just, for all of us, and I know they're all staying, but you just make our job so much easier, and you have been a bright spot from before my very first day. And I'm going to miss you, and I thank you, and I am so thankful for David and the hands that everything is in your hand, not your hands, but the board's hands, but I like you being there with us, and I've told many of you, had I known how awesome you were, I probably would have run again. Maybe it's a good thing I didn't know how awesome you were, I don't know. I think Barbara's going to step in with all of her experience in K through 12 and do a great job, but I really, really have enjoyed just these last few months and just seeing you take charge. I know there's a lot of things ahead that are not necessarily going to be fun or easy, but most of this isn't. And so I admire you guys in an unpaid position doing all you do and all the time that you put toward it, and I really have enjoyed working with you sincerely. So thank you all so much, and I wish you all the best. And yes, this probably is not the last. I'll probably be back in some form or fashion, especially with the wellness stuff, which I'm excited as we do go through all those changes with the healthcare or health insurance coverage. I'm excited, outside of being a board member, to get to kind of help the district keep working on that and help the employees be as healthy as they want to be and still get to see you guys. So thank you. And thank you for my awesome flowers and the cake, which I'm going to have tomorrow when I'm not fasting. And I'm going to take a piece home, and just thank you for everything. Appreciate you all. Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to future board calendar dates. So this is our last meeting for the year, and we will meet again January 14th and then January 28th, which is the meeting that we'll be at Emporia High School. So keep those on your calendars. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. Please cast your vote.